Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Stacy. If you're new, welcome, and welcome. I hope you hear or see something on this channel that'll make you want to come back, or better yet, subscribe and keep coming back. And if you're part of my BSSTs, my brown sugar sweet things, hey loves, how y'all doing? I got one for you today. Okay, but this want to show you. This is before, because I'm gonna be snacking on these. Okay, can you see it? The Taco Texas crisp okra pickles. They say hot, but I did open them the other day because Tika, my daughter, was telling me to try these. And after she said Jacob and RJ liked them, I was like, oh, okay, now Jacob liked them. That's the baby. Cause I want to try them. So I found them, went and got them, and I love them. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll munch on these while I'm talking because I'm having to find better things to snack on. We'll get into that later. But before I get into this video, please like this video. Leave your comments down below, and if you think it'll bless somebody, then please do share. Okay, y'all, this is my topic for today. I was asked a while back, about a week and a half ago, I did a live, and I started talking about my first child. I guess that was part of the conversation. And then I would say, I get into that another day. So talking about having my first kid. Y'all, first let me show y'all. Look, these things are really good. If you love dill pickles, baby, you gonna love these. But oh, the lighting. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm about to turn the light off because I want y'all to see it. Wait a minute. Okay, look. You see that? Not slimy. These are really good. Okay, y'all. Let me get to the subject. For those that don't know me, I have 4 kids, and they're all grown now. Everybody grown. My older 2 are married with kids. The younger 2 don't have kids yet, but the ages is, my oldest is 35. Those that know Martika, she's 31. Beverly is 26. And Michael will be 23 the end of August. So anyway, and if you just heard my oldest, Ezekiel, that's his name, Ezekiel, but we call him Kale. If you just heard that I said that, turn my light back on, that he is 35, and if y'all remember, I just turned 50, so that's a 15-year age difference. I had him in January, and then for age 14, and then I had him, and then I turned 15 3 months later, because my birthday in April is in January. But I give the story one day on the actual getting pregnant and what came up behind that. But I did have him at an early age. I was in 9th grade. And if anybody know, I'm the only child that my mother had. So I grew up an only child because I wasn't raised with my father or my 2 siblings on my dad's side. So I grew up as an only child. My mom's only child. And to rush through that first part, when it was the way I found out was that one morning I couldn't breathe. I was having trouble breathing. And my mom got scared, rushed me to the hospital because it was like I really was gasping for breath. I don't know, I just could not breathe. Got to the emergency room, still having trouble breathing. They couldn't find nothing wrong with me. I had to have an EKG, X-ray. I had all this stuff done. Everything was normal. The last thing that the doctor did was a pregnancy test. And it came back positive. And I remember the doctor came to me first. I was laying, still in the hospital bed or whatever. And I remember the doctor came to me and he was like, okay, we couldn't find nothing wrong. We did a pregnancy test, last resort, and came back positive. Yeah, my heart stopped. I'm going to give you some backstory on that, why it stopped. My heart stopped. I was so scared. I started shaking. And they was like, he said, do you want to tell your mom or do you want me to tell her? I told him, you could tell her. But I begged him. I said, can y'all please? I don't want to go home. But please let me stay here because she going to kill me. And he's like, we can't keep you. I'm like, well, I'm going to be back later because she going to kill me. Scared to death, y'all. So I remember I was laying on bed. She was like standing behind me. The doctor went and told her. And all I saw was her head dropping, her eyes closed. And I was so scared. And so she didn't say anything. She didn't react. She was just very quiet. And at the time, my mom had a Honda Prelude. And I remember when they took me out, I, of course, normally sit in the front seat. But I got in that back seat because it was a two-door. So I told them I want to sit in the back on the opposite side. I was scared. She didn't say anything to me the whole way home. And when we got home, I had to call my grandmother and my grandfather because, like I said, I was 14. So she was like, you go call them and tell them. Oh, that broke my heart. It broke my heart more that I had to call my grandparents and tell them that I was pregnant than it was that I was pregnant. Real talk. Because if anybody know my story, know my grandparents raised me. I went to live with my mom when I was 13. And then at 14, I got pregnant. And so I lived with my grandparents. So it's really like they were my parents. And I remember I was so scared because just the fact that I had to call them and tell them that I was pregnant, that broke my heart. But my mom called and was like, Stacy got something to tell y'all. So my nickname, y'all, and this is why I call everybody this, and this is why it's so affectionate to me. My nickname growing up was Sweetie. So that's how I knew my mom was mad, because she didn't say Sweetie, she said Stacy. Stacy got something to tell y'all. So my granddaddy got on the phone first, and he was like, Sweetie, what's wrong? And I was like, I wasn't saying anything. He was like, baby, what's wrong? And I just broke it. I'm pregnant. And I'm just crying. And I just lost it. Y'all, I'm telling you, that just took so much out of me to tell my grandfather and my grandmother that, because they both was actually, back then we didn't have speakerphones like, but they had the phone. The receiver phone, they was holding the receiver in between their ears. Because I had to make sure that my grandmother could hear too. And she was like, I hear you, baby, I hear you. And so when I told them, they got quiet. And I remember my grandfather, you would have thought that they was just finna just go in on me and act up. They didn't. My grandfather blamed my mother. Yeah. He blamed her. He said it was her fault that I got pregnant. And that then he got upset with my grandmother, because his thing was, I told you, my grandmother's name was Ruby. My granddad's name was Eugene, but we called him Gene. Well, I call him granddaddy, but everybody call him Gene. And he was like, Ruby, I told you not to let that girl go stay with her. And she was like, Gene, that's her daughter. So if she wanted her daughter to come, if she wanted her to come live with, that's our daughter. We raised her, but that's still her daughter. So they actually got into a little disagreement about that because my grandmother was that sweet, I always saw the good in everything and everybody. My granddad was just very straightforward. He was quiet as a church mouse during the week. On the weekends when he drinking his little gin, you knew he was home. But he was that man that did not bite his tongue. So with all that being said, my mom got mad because my granddaddy blamed her. And that was one of the hardest things I had to do at that age. And then it was the next step. My mom was, and I mean, this is my story. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad or whatever, but this is my story. This is a part of who I am. This is part of my history. And my mom got mad because, like I said, she was being blamed for something I did. And my granddad was like, because, my mom worked all the time. And what was the purpose of me coming to live with her if she was never going to be there because she was always gone working? Because my mom have always been a hustler, even to this day. She always buy her, she buy her money. And she worked. She had, she had a position and she was a supervisor. And so she had to work all the time. She worked long hours or whatever. And my grandfather was very upset. My grandmother was very compassionate. And then I remember that particular night, my mom, like I said, she didn't say nothing to me from the time the doctor told her until it was like a couple of days later. The only thing she said to me was, you go tell them. Other than that, she didn't talk to me, didn't have nothing to say. And that was even worse. Everybody know that silence is, I'd rather you fuss, so at least I know what's going on in your head. But when you're quiet, you're not saying that, yeah. So she didn't say nothing, I think, and it just made it worse that my granddaddy blamed her. But she, let it go. She didn't, well, I ain't gonna say let it go. She just didn't have nothing to say that night. And then the next day, she didn't say nothing to me. She got up, she went to work. This was one day during the week. I can't remember what day of the week was. I know she got up the next day and went to work. I had to get up and go to school. Of course, I didn't tell nobody. Because a lot of things is going on. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was scared. I felt like I had let my grandparents down. I felt like I had let my mom down. But the truth of the matter is, I felt like it was more disappointing and hurting to me that I let my grandparents down than I did my mom. And that's just the real truth, because me and my mom wasn't that close. Me and my grandparents, however, were. Again, they raised me. So finally, when my mom did talk to me, she was angry. She was angry. And like I said, I'm not telling this story to bring embarrassment or make somebody look bad. But again, you got to remember, I was 14. And I was an only child. And this was just a lot. She was, so she had apparently called my dad. And when I found out she had called him, I remember I was so mad, because I'm like, why would you call him? I couldn't say that to her now. There ain't no fool. I couldn't say it to her, but I was thinking to myself, why would you call him? He is not really a part of my life, to be honest. I mean, he paid child support, but that's it. And that's because you keep taking him to court. Why are you doing this? And I was so mad. I remember I got so mad at her for calling him. And then, of course, the conversation was, she's too young. She got a whole life ahead of her. She's only 14. She don't need to be having no baby, XYZ. So end up in an abortion clinic. End up at an abortion clinic. And I remember, again, my dad showed up there to meet, and that just made me even madder, to be honest, y'all, because I'm saying, like, you can't show up, and like I said, I'm not trying to make nobody look bad, because me and my sister, we're good, we're close, and I don't want to offend nobody, but I'm telling my story the way things were. And I remember when I saw him, I got mad, because I'm like, you don't show up for anything else, but you will show up for this? Are you serious? So I was, oh my God, I was so angry. There was like a bitterness had came up in me. And it was like it was such a bitterness, and almost to the point of a hatred, but it didn't go that far, because I've always been that person that I can get mad, get angry, get upset, but I have always been that person to have a forgiving heart. So, but I remember when we had to go in and do the paperwork. I remember we gave us a clipboard, everything, and they come handing my mom the paperwork, and my mama handed it to me. And she was like, you fill out the paperwork. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. But her attitude was, you grown, you at to having sex, you fill out the paperwork. So I'm sitting there, and they have like all the stuff first, and then you start filling out all the extra. And I remember I was reading the papers, and it was saying that, I skipped the part. But I'll go back to that. I skipped the big part, because we had to go to the, let me back up so you'll understand that paperwork. When I found out I was pregnant, my mom took me to my family doctor, and then doctor did a test, did all this stuff, found out I was 20 weeks pregnant. I was 20 weeks pregnant when I found out I was pregnant. And the thing was, I was real little, y'all, real slim. I didn't have nothing. I didn't have any morning sickness. I was still getting my cycle every month faithfully. There was no indication that I was pregnant. And the kicker is, I got pregnant, and I had no idea I was pregnant. I didn't. I lost my virginity and got pregnant all in the same day. But, okay, fast forward and back. I found out I was 20 weeks pregnant, and that was that. So now let's fast forward back to the abortion clinic, because you can get I was in my second trimester, but you can get an abortion in your second trimester. And I remember I reading the paperwork, and it was saying how they was going to do it. They, like I said, the graphic part of it is they inject the saline solution in you. This was then, you got to remember, I don't know how they do it now, but this was 35 years ago, over 35 years ago, because he's 35 now. But the procedure then was, they said that they inject a saline solution into your stomach, into the sac that the baby is in. And this is the disclosure of graphic information, and it burns the baby up. It's salt, a highly concentrated salt solution. And then once that takes place, you do that the first day, and the second day they induce labor, and you actually give birth, but you give birth to a baby that's not alive. So when I read that, I'm already scared. And then the disclosure was, I had to sign these papers, because if it's a, you know, it was a great possibility that I could die. And if I died, my parents could not sue the clinic. So they had no idea. They thinking it's gonna be a simple procedure, whatever. They had no idea. But when I read it and I'm reading what they saying, I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So me, I've always had a little sarcastic attitude about me, and that's just being real. So when it came to the part that said patient's name, I put my dad's name because he was more adamant about me getting this abortion than my mom was. My mom was still kind of, I don't know, da da da. He was the one pushing it. Let's just call it for what it is. He was the one pushing it. My mom. So I put his name. And I feel like, and when I had the paperwork back to the nurse, nobody ever looked over the paperwork to make sure I had did it correctly. When I had it back to the nurse, she brought attention that I put his name, and the nurse was like, your name was supposed to go. I said, no, he want this done so bad he can be the patient, because I'm not finna die trying to take, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah, that paperwork said I can die. I'm 14. I'm scared to death. Don't know how successful. Don't know any statistics, any of that. I just knew y'all trying to make me have an abortion and I might die. No, I'm not doing it. I'm like, oh, they gonna have to tie me down and drug. I'm not doing it. So when my daddy, when I said that, he got so angry. And then that's when my mama said, wait a minute, what? There's a possibility she can die from having this done. And that's when the nurse explained in detail, yes, she's 20 weeks, we got to do, and then she explained the procedure. And my mom was like, no, let's go. She was like, no, this is my only child, and I'm not finna risk losing my child trying to take a life. Absolutely not. Let's go. So when we left, my dad, they got into an argument in the parking lot. My dad was mad. And my mom was like, first of all, I don't even know why I called you, because you have not been a part of her life. What you have done, you're doing it only because the courts are making you. And then on top of that, this my only one, you got 2 more. So, no. And then there's a whole bunch of history, that really made it a very touchy, sensitive situation, almost to I know you don't care what happened to her. But I bet you if it was one of the mother ones, you wouldn't be doing. So it was that kind of thing that was going on. So my dad left. I ain't hear from him no more. No, I take that back. Then when they found out that who I was pregnant by, the guy was 18, I was 14. Then my daddy, when he found, had to go to his house, parents talking, and it's like, no. Everybody was okay until my dad started talking about when he found out how old he was. Started talking about statutory rape and having charges brought up against him. And then that just killed all the communications from there. But anyway, so now, moving forward, I'm pregnant. Now I'm going to keep the baby. My mom told my grandma they was mad because she was telling them that I was going to have an abortion. So when she had to call them and let them know that I'm no longer having one, that I'm going to have a baby. They was happy, but they was scared for me. Again, remember I was in 9th grade. I was a straight A student, and I remember it was like, what are we going to do? And, of course, once the family found out, let's just be real, everybody was like, oh, she gonna drop out of high school. All the negativity came. And in my head, I'm like, I was determined. I don't care what I gotta do. I'm not dropping out of school. I'm gonna graduate on time, no matter what. Well, after we got through that part, the initial shock and disappointments and all that, then my support system got super strong. Then my mom got super happy because then I had to go and have an ultrasound, and that's when I found out I was having a boy, and my mom was ecstatic. She was ecstatic. So she gets her boy. So after, like I said, that initial thing, it was, of course, the normal disappointments and all that. But then my support system, like I said, was very strong. My mom was very supportive. She bought everything because it was like this gonna be her baby. My grandparents was very happy. And the way we set things up was on Sunday evening, we would take my son to my grandparents' house on Sunday evening, and on Friday evening, when my mom got off of work, she would go pick him up and bring him home. That became the routine once he was born, and I eventually had to go back to school. And I stayed out of school. Back then, you could, and I don't know again how it is now, but I know you could stay out of school consecutively for 3 weeks before you get retained. 15 days, Monday through Friday, 15 days. And I stayed out because I actually went into labor on a Sunday night because I had a doctor's appointment the next day. I actually went into labor that Sunday night in the wee hours of the morning. So I was going to be out of school anyway on that Monday, but I ended up having Kale. And then I was out for exactly 15 days. And then I went back to school, y'all. I went back to school after 15 days because I was determined that I could not fail. And I had a friend at the time that stayed in an apartment complex, and her name was Rosalind. And she would go around to all my classes every day and get my homework and my assignments, bring it to me. I would do all my work, and then the next morning she would come to the apartment, because like I said, we stayed across the parking lot from each other. She would come to the apartment, get my work, and then take it back to the school for me. And that's what we did for 3 weeks so that I could stay on track. And I remember my English teacher was like, noticed that after a couple of days I wasn't there, and she was like, because I never showed, y'all. I never showed him. Then when I did get a baby Pudge at the end, because he was very little. He was only 4 pounds and a half an ounce when he was born. And he was full term, but he was so little. I remember when the teacher did, because I did start wearing, big sweatshirts at the end, but it was still so little you couldn't really tell. And I sat in front of my particular teacher, because I like to sit in front of the class so I can hear, because in the back you got distractions. And I remember she asked, had anybody heard from me? Because I had been in school, and Rosalind was like, she had a baby. And she was like, her baby? Like, yeah, she was pregnant. Nobody knew, so that was like the big shocker. But yeah, but I stayed out, like I said, 3 weeks. Made sure I sent all my work in, did all my homework assignments, and I would sit there and I would talk out loud to him from a young age, all his life. I would sit and talk to him. When I say he's a brainiac now, computer genius. But yeah, I'm sharing it because someone asked me, but like I said, I was 14, turned 15. And I'm going to tell you, that was a scary moment in my life. But that set the scenery, because I've always been that person, and that was like the beginning of it. If someone said that I couldn't, or the odds are kind of stacked against me, I work even harder to push through and achieve whatever I'm doing. And the reason I'm telling this story today, because that actually came back to me today when I was thinking about a lot of stuff, because I'm like, okay, I know I'm a snacker, or I'm an emotional eater and a bored eater. I'm like, I'm not bored because I got too much stuff I'm doing. And I realized I was being emotional without realizing it. And I had to remind myself of when it seems like things are just, that's what made me bring this story up and decide to tell that story today. And tidbit, my son is 35. And to this day, he's never met his father. Never. Not because the opportunity wasn't presented or asked, he just didn't do it. So there you have it. But that's a whole nother story for a different day. I'm gonna give y'all, I'm gonna elaborate some more, but I'm gonna end this video right here. And I want your feedback for sure. Please like this video. Leave your comments down below. as well as share it if you think it will help somebody else. But the moral of this story is, even when something don't seem like it's gonna work for you, or that it is really gonna change the course of your life, it did. Becoming a mother at a young age really did change the course of my life. But I'm thankful even to this day, because when I look back over my life, it was my children that kept me focused. We done went through so many hardships together, me and my kids, but we stuck it out and we stuck together. And it's scary being pregnant. It's scary being pregnant. It's extremely scary the younger you are. And the key is a good support system. And if you can't find that in your family or your friends, there are support groups out there that you can find. There is one thing about me, I always wanted to start. I said if I ever came into a lot of money, I used to always say if I ever came into a lot of money, I want to start a home for teenage mothers, because I was blessed to have a good support system. I was extremely blessed. Between my mother, my grandparents, my aunts and my uncles, I had an excellent support system. But everybody is not lucky nor blessed enough to have that, and it is scary. But if you can just try not to be afraid, and if you don't have the support system through family, try to get it through friends. But there's numerous groups out there that you could just call and talk to get that support and encouragement, and know that it is possible. You will be okay. One thing about children don't change one or two things in your life. They change every single thing about your life. And if you position in your head and in your heart, I'm going to be the best parent I could possibly be to this child or your children. If you position yourself and you say that's what you want to do, then you will figure it out. There is no handbook. There's no handbook. But there is a lot of advice. Many people have done it. All you have to do is, sometimes a lot of us don't know and we're afraid to ask for help. Just ask for help. People can only say one or two things, either yes or no. If they don't want to help or want to give you encouragement or support, then you find somebody else. But it's a scary situation. But I guarantee you, when you look at that little one, and you know that little one, the support is dependent on you, you will figure it out. You will figure it out. And you're going to make mistakes. You're not perfect. You're only human. You're going to make mistakes. But that's where learning from your mistakes and trying to do better and pushing and just it becomes in you. It's in you. Whatever you need, God will bring it out of you. You go hear something, see something, is all in what you want to do. If you want to be, I was determined, I want to be a good parent. I was determined to graduate on time. I was determined to keep my grades up. And I did that because I positioned it in my head and in my heart. And I wanted to be a good parent. I did. That don't mean I was the best. I made mistakes. There are things I could have done differently, but hey, it's part of my story. And I'm thankful for my journey, because everything I've been through up to this day has made me into the woman that I am today. And one thing about it, what I learned then, I know for a fact I can help somebody else. So if anybody is watching this, you have any questions, something that I didn't cover or didn't say, and you curious or you want to know because you need to know for whatever, just comment, leave the comments. I'm going to respond, and I'm going to be as open and helpful as I can possibly be, because I had a lot of help. I did, and I was scared, but I got through it, and you can too. I love you, my BSSTs. I hope y'all enjoyed this story time. And I will see you in tomorrow. Love you. Bye. Uh-oh, sorry.